Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 167 of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, who's praising the sun with me tonight.
It's me, Daniel Mellman.
Welcome back.
Thank you. You too.
And live all the way from freezing his ass off in Prox, Richard Sampson.
Tom, welcome back. And Richard, where can people find you at?
You can find me on my YouTube channel, which is on YouTube under the name Rich Kale, and I also have stuff written all over the place on fanfiction.net, Archive of Your Own, and Comic Vine.
All right. And Dan, where can people find your work at?
Look in the show notes. I don't know the URL. It's terrible. It's one of those long generic ones, and I haven't figured out how to fix it yet.
Yeah, if it's like YouTube, you have to get like so many followers or something. I think
you gotta get 100 subscribers to get the custom.
You do for
name.
YouTube. It took me. I have that thankfully, but it took a while because I have like
40 on YouTube. I just checked it.
It can work. All right, and we are here to talk about a game that is almost 3 years in the making for us to record this episode. Finally, so we are here to talk about Golden Sun: The Lost Age, which is the second half of the Golden Sun game that came out in Game Boy Advance. This one came out in 2003 in North America, developed by Camelot. And if you haven't listened to either our Golden Sun original episode 4 with an entire different cast, or the recovered episode we did a couple months ago with Dan and a few other people that couldn't make it for this episode, you should listen to one of those first, because we're going to spoil the first Golden Sun, and it's really, in my opinion, one game.
That's a complicated question, and I do want to talk about that.
We will. So Golden Sun, Golden Sun Lost Age is an RPG for Game Boy Advance that is a second cartridge, but it picks up right after the first game ends. It was a different part.
Before the first game ends.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there is a little overlap right in the beginning.
Not much.
Not much, no. And it does give you a brief what happened in the previous game.
So my first question is, Dan, have you ever played this before this episode?
I have. I had this game as a kid. I got it when it came out. I was a huge fan of the first game, and I got maybe to the halfway point when the original party joined. Spoilers.
It's okay.
And dropped it. Didn't get into this one as much, but did have it as a kid.
Okay. I had it I bought both of these at one point because back in that time, like 2006, when I first got a DS, 2005, I had this notion where I was trying to beat 100 RPGs, and I had to beat turnstile RPGs, and I had a list I was keeping track with my friend. We were competing, and so I would only buy RPGs with the intention to beat him and get to 100 before he did. And I remember buying this game, but I never played it. For some reason, I just never played it. I don't know why.
Who won? Did you finish?
Neither of us. We got pissed at. He got pissed at me for keeping a list because I was ahead. So we just stopped. We were teenagers. We were in high school, and he had more important things to worry about. Where I'm sitting here, and then we both got girlfriends at the end of that. So I never did finish, but I think I got in the 30s or 40s. So I was making pretty good progress.
Yeah, you were. I mean, I got Golden Sun shortly after the Game Boy Advance came out when it was released. And part of that was because I saw a bit of a strategy guide in what was to be Nintendo's Game Boy Advance only magazine. And I'm one of these people, I hate the to be continued at the end. And when I saw Lost Age was coming out, I had to get it because you don't end the story. Don't drop a story in the middle. You don't end the story with to be continued without continuing it.
If I remember correctly, this was supposed to be on one cartridge, but it couldn't fit.
Oh, yes. That is very true, too.
It was supposed to be on one cartridge on the Nintendo 64 during pre-production.
Oh, okay.
But when they moved it to the Game Boy Advance, they say, hey, let's do what we did with our previous game and split it up into multiple volumes.
What was their previous game?
Shining Force 3, which was in 3 volumes.
Oh.
I've never played that.
It's really good.
Same.
What system?
Sega Saturn.
That's why I never played it.
Yeah, that definitely.
We and hey, Rich, is it Richard?
Yep.
You're gonna love this. We only got the first volume of that, so that ends on a to be continued that you could not continue. They're all fan
right. Avoid Shining Force.
Well, I mean, with emulation, I'm sure it's out there now. So.
Yep, and they're all fan translated.
Oh yeah, that's a good thing for the fans to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one thing about this game that I feel like really sets it apart is when you beat Golden Sun 1, you can either use a transfer cable and connect your data and transfer your save to the new if you have 2 GBAs and Golden Sun 1 and 2, you can transfer it and a link cable, or you get a like 6-page, 200 some character password that has to be exactly right.
It takes about an hour to put in.
When I put that in, I had a friend who had these games as a kid, and she said, "Could you stream it?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I set up a webcam and pointed at my little 3DS and entered all of it while chatting with her with that little loop of the first game's theme playing, and I got it first try.
I did not. I actually failed multiple times and had to go through each page, each code. I started at the back, like, I must have screwed up in the back. And I went all the way to page 1 to like the second line to find all my mistakes. I was kind of irritated.
And I wrote it down on, I think, index cards or something. And I remember I started it when my wife was getting her nails done. So I've got to do something to kill the time. So I'm starting it, and I figure I'll get the code in. I'll play the game a bit. It took me the whole time sitting there to copy it over, and I'm like, made a mistake somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, it
is.
It was bad. I luckily
260 characters. I just looked that up.
And you don't have to do all that. You can you can pick different levels. I picked where all my all my levels, everything came over,
which is the best way to do it, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, if you put 30 hours into a massive RPG, you're not going to do the bronze or silver password. No one's going to do that.
No. And you would regret it, too, because the game would hurt you for not doing it when you get farther in the game.
Yeah, because you can't use some of the cool summons that they put in this one.
There's multiple things you'll lose. And that's what I found so impressive. So when I went into Golden Sun Lost Age, I wasn't that excited. I was playing this on my phone. So I'm like, okay, it'll be a phone game. I'll play it. And because you start with a new team, the team from the other team in the first Golden Sun, Felix, Jenna, and Sheba that you met a few times, and this time now you were kind of against them because they're trying to light the lighthouses where you were trying to stop the lighthouses in the first game. Mm-hmm. And in the first game, they light 2 lighthouses. You kill the 2 people who originally started this problem. And I've forgotten that the whole reason you went on this quest is some big floating eyeball told you to stop the lighthouses or the world will end. And you're like, okay, floating eyeball, you got it.
Mm-hmm. And specifically that these are the children who have to do it.
Yes.
Yep.
And you don't know why Felix was doing what he was doing, where you saw him as a villain in the first game, and then it isn't until way late in this game you find out his actual reasoning for what he's doing.
Which I think is fascinating, because you start this game playing as Jenna, Felix's sister, while Felix does his stuff at the end of the first game and, jumps off the lighthouse with Sheba. And you have no idea why you're doing what you're doing until Isaac finds out, which I think is just fascinating. Which is like
20 some hours in.
Actually, I think you can find out beforehand.
When you first meet the sister, they make a couple comments, but they don't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
They don't say what, they just say something about, I think they might say a comment like they have somebody or something of that nature.
It's about midway through when you get with your last teammate that you get in the game, and you go to his homeland, and that's when you really get the idea of what's really happening, and it starts to point out things are not what they seem.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think that's what impressed me so much with this game. Like, right after I beat this game, I texted a buddy of mine. I'm like, you need to play this. And he loves RPGs. His favorite game is Chrono Trigger, like mine. And I'm like, you need to play this game. I'm like, put it on your PSP and play it, because you will enjoy this game. And I don't normally do it. I play a lot of games for the show, and I usually don't text my friend and go, play this now. This game came out 20 years ago. And that was something that really surprised me about Golden Sun: The Lost Age, where I enjoyed Golden Sun, but when you put these two together, it's really something else.
It's an epic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the first game. It was one of the first JRPGs I played as a kid, and I loved it. And this one didn't grab me as much just because I kept getting lost. It's so easy to get lost, even early on in this game. I did a bunch of stuff out of order. I kept thinking, I can't do this yet. I'll probably have to come back with a different power. And a friend who played this game over and over again as a kid and picked up my 3DS and it's like, all right, I'll get you unstuck. And it's just like, wait, you haven't done this? You haven't done this? She just got more and more frustrated. And eventually said I had to give her a shout out on this podcast. But she unscrewed up my save. Got me all the synergies I was missing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have not finished this game yet. I got the boat and haven't got too much further because it's not grabbing me. I'm not getting that momentum yet.
Because you didn't get... It takes a little bit with the boat, but that was another thing that surprised me. So you played this game for, I think it's about, maybe 20 hours or so you're into it before you get the boat?
It didn't take me that long.
Okay. I feel like it is a decent amount into the game. Like the game, I'm trying to pull up the outline because I know you go through it's not till 27 things out of 54 of in the walkthrough when you get the ship. So about halfway through the game.
Okay,
like they really make you work.
I'm much further than I thought I was in that case.
Yeah, because also when you get the ship, there's a lot of side things you can do that you don't have to do.
Yeah.
The game it really opens up the world, and I thought that was really surprising because you can't go back to where you were in Golden Sun, but you can go kind of close to where the edge of the continent or the edge of the ocean is.
Which I think is worth noting that is a staple of this kind of RPG. Just the structure changing radically as you get new vehicles. Like every Final Fantasy does that. A lot of the Dragon Quests do that, notably 3 and 2. But 1 doesn't do that, which makes it interesting. Like 1 sort of loops back on itself, and you can, go back and do some side quests. But it's not open in the way Lost Age is from like the word go.
Lost Age. What really surprised me with this game is like when you get to a certain point and you get the boat, it's really something else. When all of a sudden you can just sail around the world. I was not expecting that.
They really build up the boat too. You can even find one near the end of the first game where it's like, we don't know why we can't use this, and you find out in Lost Age.
That I thought was also really interesting.
Yeah.
That it teases you, and like you see the boat early in this game, but you can't actually use it because you don't have the black sphere, and you see the sphere, but they won't give it to you. And I really like that too. I was like, okay, that's good, guys. You did a good job, game. And there was a lot of things like that in this game where it teases you. Like and one of the things about the first game that makes this really stand out as an RPG is it has psi energy. Psi energies are abilities you can do on the map, not the world map, but like you're in a dungeon map or a town, you can do abilities. You can move something. You can dig.
Also on the world map.
Yes. It's not as useful usually. But that to me was something that really makes this game stand out. And I'm not a big fan of puzzle games. I'm just not, but it works really well in here. A lot better than I expected.
I love the puzzles. The dungeons are really memorable because of it. I mean, when I'm like, I can solve this and not, I should go to the next town and get lost and have to throw a 3DS at my friend to get unstuck. Like when you get the orb, it's this huge mechanical machine. It's like Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times inside. Just all the dungeons have that kind of creativity to them. And the puzzles are what let them do that.
Surprisingly, like the dungeons are all pretty creative too, I felt.
Oh yeah, they are very creative. And there's
feel free.
Yeah, if you really take a look at the map and look at some of these dungeons and all that, you really get a feel that this world that you're on is just almost like our own.
Yes.
To an extent, because I think we had Ayers Rock, and I think they even named it the actual name Ayers Rock has in Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. I'd have to double check.
That's cool. I know there's one thing about the game. The game has 4 rock dungeons, as a simple way to call them. And they range from, each time you go to these dungeons, you get something special, which is you get a different psi energy for each one of the elements that you have on your team. And I thought that was a very interesting concept. I didn't like it per se, because the first rock you go to is Ayers Rock.
So
and it's one of the worst dungeons I've done in a while.
Why is it so big?
I would not have figured out without a guide because
Ayers Rock. Yeah,
I couldn't do it. Like there was a part where you had to use the whirlwind ability to shoot a vine, and the vine would swing back, and you grab the vine, and you hoist your way across. And my brain did not think that way.
So I did everything in that dungeon, and then you don't get a cutscene or anything. You just get a gem for the synergy to use a reveal.
Yes.
Which lets you do some other stuff in other parts of the world. And there's no cutscene or anything. You just have to leave. And I'm like, all right, I've spent an hour and a half in this dungeon. What do I do? And I went through it again, basically, and got super powerful.
Oh, yeah. And you get one of the summons in that in Ayers Rock as well.
I don't even think I found that. Yeah,
I didn't either.
That dungeon is... It's like not supporting the storytelling. It's not a big part of the story. you being there, and it's this huge struggle with no narrative context. I
Well,
don't like that dungeon at all.
It's really
I would agree and I would disagree, because as I say, when you get more for the full story of why they're doing this, it makes sense. They have to learn the various psi energies.
Yes, but not at first. Like, and it's a complicated dungeon that really makes you have to start really learning your psi energies, and it doesn't. To me, it wasn't helpful. Like later on, I had no problem with the other 4 rocks that I went into where I didn't really get lost or stuck. But this one really, like, it took me like a day to get through it, and I was playing this with my phone off and on. This was a terrible dungeon to start and stop, because I would like play for 10 minutes. Okay, I better go do some work, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go walk over here. Okay, I'll play it while I'm walking from point A to point B while I'm working, and I kept forgetting what the hell I was doing and got lost.
If it were the last one, I wouldn't have an issue at all. It's just far too long and complicated.
It's too early
for when you get to it and how little it's built up.
I think it's also you also only have 3 characters. And one thing that this game did that I didn't really care for, but it works, is you don't get your 4th character. Like, okay, for when you play Golden Sun, you see this group of Jenna, Felix, Sheba, and you see Alex. Alex is with you in the very beginning. He doesn't work with you, then he leaves you.
You can just find him hanging out in certain places, which is weird. Yeah. You'll just like find him in inns, and he's like, "Yep, I exist. Hi."
It's sort of telling you that there's something more to Alex. That
he is clearly threatening Felix whenever he shows up, and you don't really know why at first.
An asshole. But it's the amount of time they make you go without a 4th person. Like you meet the 4th person, Pierre, in a jail cell, but you don't get him. And I think when you double back, he escapes.
Could you get him before you go to Ayers Rock? Because there's a lot you can do out of order. No, you need reveal.
I don't think you can. I think because if I remember correctly, you have to go somewhere else to then get his freedom, and then you come back.
Yeah, you do. But I wonder if you need reveal, because that place is not Garo, which is kind of what prompts you to go to Ayers Rock and what you do immediately after.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
now,
I wonder.
My guide didn't tell me to, because I use a guide for this game, of course, because it's me. But I don't know. I felt like there was something I needed. Like I needed a reveal to get something that led to me getting him out. But I beat this game a few weeks ago, and I cannot remember.
It is
I'm trying to look through my one of my guides right now to see where it happens.
I just looked it up. You can totally go there with Pierce. Just most
that's
people
cool.
won't.
That'd be a lot easier then. Because he's your water element guy. Jenna's your fire. Felix is your earth, and Sheba's your wind.
Wind.
The thing about the water guy is, like, in the first game, Mia is a great mage, and she's a great healer, where this guy has healing abilities, but he doesn't have much MP because he's more a warrior type, which I thought was kind of cool. They switch it, and the fire and the wind are mages, and earth and water are the fighters. So they switch one.
Jenny gets good weapons, though.
It also ties in with, you get him after a while, because even in the first game, in Golden Sun, you didn't get your water adept until a bit later in the game.
Yes, but it was quicker than this game.
Oh yeah.
This one takes I'm not complaining. Like I don't see this bad thing. I thought it was an interesting way how long it took me to get him, and I was like, this is a little surprising to me how long it took. I wanted him faster.
And the build up to getting him is also strange, because he's imprisoned because some pirates raided the town, and some people think he's part of it, but apparently the Elder doesn't. And when you first talk to him, he's like, all right, when's the Elder going to get back and free me? And it's kind of unclear why he's there entirely. He doesn't really have much connection with the pirates, it turns out.
I took it as racism.
Yes.
That's all I took it.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's an outsider. I get that. But also, like, it's weird. And then you get back and he's not there anymore. He's just left on his own.
Yeah, he just had enough. I gotta go, guys. Yeah, that's kind of surprised me, too. Like, I was a little irritated. I'm like, where'd he go? I want to get on my team.
You have to do what he wants to do then.
And the game teases you for a bit with that, too.
Mm-hmm. And when you get to the village, the village where you do get him, the dungeon's tough. Like people kept dying, and there's a synergy stone to like get your points back, and a mage on the other side, and you need to go past a point where he will leave your party again. And because you're there to get his orb, and if you try and walk out, he's just like, well, I'm going to get this without your help or not. So I'd go back, I'd revive everyone, And I go back to the statue, and he's like, "Oh, you're going to help me get my stone back. That's great." And I'm like, I hate this man.
Okay, that was an interesting dungeon, because you go inside a giant, like, tiki statue.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. Like, I mean, the dungeons in this game were very unique, too, and they do a really good job of making you use the psi energy to move things around. I actually wouldn't figure out this dungeon without a guide, because you had to ride a gear to get on top of something and jump off the gear onto another gear to then travel.
It's cool because you see a rat do it at one point.
My brain didn't comprehend that the rat meant I could do it too.
Yeah, that's how I figured it out. I'm like, oh, that's clever.
Oh yeah, you there's always they throw something out there for you to see, just to show you something is doable. And I
really like that.
I also just looked up on Piers, and his ship got beached because apparently he left Lemuria at the time that the Venus lighthouse was lit, causing a tidal wave. And you see a strange ship beached on your beach, and you've been plagued by pirates. People are going to think it's pirates.
Yeah, but...
And if the pirates see this happen, they're going to say, oh, let's lay low and not visit this area for a while so this guy can take the heat for us.
Yeah,
I like the pirates.
Pirates are good. Like, this game, I think Golden Sun 1 did it too, but you have lots of towns that are in trouble, and you're going there to help with some problem too. And I like their whole journey, because like you don't even see a lighthouse until close to the end of the game when you finally find the first of the 2 lighthouses, because you spend so much time just traveling across the continent trying to figure out what the hell you're doing. And
they're more and it just builds on it that each lighthouse is supposed to be more complex than the last one you went to.
They are. I mean, the battle system is pretty much the same as Golden Sun 1. There really aren't any differences. They still have that one. I don't like it, but I learned to accept it, where if a character kills an enemy and the character is supposed to attack said enemy, they just defend instead.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I learned to accept it.
I mean, it's doing what it's doing. It makes you think about, there are so many area of effect spells. It's kind of making you think a little more. I don't love it either, but I get its place here.
And I do love that all the magic spells have a splash damage or cone of attack as you do each spell, because it shows you, like, this is your main target. These 2 next to them will get lesser damage. Those 2 next to them will get lesser damage, and so on. Mm-hmm. And the more powerful the spell, the better its range.
Yeah, there's kind of a little more to think about.
This game has a lot of elements to it, like in the battle style and the gameplay. Also, this one is much more challenging than Golden Sun 1, I felt.
Yep, me too.
Because I leveled my ass off. Not on purpose. I got lost so often that I was always over-leveled until near the end of the game, when the game's like, you think you're over-leveled? And it beat the shit out of me a few times. But I found that interesting. Like, I was surprised. I wasn't expecting to go in this and get my ass handed to me. Nor was I expecting to be level 1 when I first started playing as a new team. But
yeah, which is also probably why they give you that build-up in that area, so you can get your characters to something more on par of what Felix is at. I mean, not Isaac is at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
also
you kind of play the length of the original, and then the original party joins.
Yeah, and that adds that new feature to the battle system.
Oh, way later on, yes. I want to wait to get to that, though.
Okay.
Because I have a story for that. So, but another thing that I want to mention is just the way the world works. Like, I felt it did a very good job of having you traverse the world map from town to town. And yes, I was using the guide, so I knew where to go, but I felt like the game did a good job of, like, people telling you, like, okay, hey, there's something going on over here in this direction, if you talk to people.
Yeah. Or read their minds.
I was surprised how interesting this world was too. Like, it, as you progress through the game, after you get the ship that we mentioned about, you end up throughout the game you get items that they'll say like a forgeable material. I'm like, what the hell does this mean? Because the inventory is very small in Golden Sun 1 and 2, mm-hmm. which I don't like, but I think it's part of its challenge.
Yeah.
So, to make you actually care about the items you have and make you think about, okay, if I have extra equipment, I need to sell it, or do I want to keep this? Like, it does a good job of doing that. But, like, what I was saying was, my brain is thinking, I don't know where I was. Someone take over timeline.
Well, with the inventory system, one thing you learn early on is consolidate. And whenever you buy a new item that you can equip to a person, they ask you if you want to sell what you used to have. Which that's a brilliant thing in my book, because how many games do you have that they ask you, hey, you were using this weapon, and it's a lot less. Why hold on to it? You could just sell it right now.
I think Dragon Quest does do that.
Dragon Quest does, yes. And like also with that, like you can, if you have rare items with this game, I felt had a lot more rare items than Golden Sun 1 did, which are items that have like a magic ability to it, where you get either extra PP or you have extra, like you have a certain attack associated with said weapon. I thought PP. That was like what I would do is I would sell them at the store, and then I would rebuy them later on because I had so much gold and used it as my storage in case I'd like.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean,
they have the artifact system, and you can sell necessary items.
Because once you sell it to one guy, everybody in the game has it. Every merchant will then have it as an artifact in there. So it's a good way to like, I don't need this. And then I went back and looked when later on in the game to get your second team. I looked through and said, "Oh, I can fix this. I can use this armor. I can use this." And I rebought a bunch of stuff and equipped it in the new team. Get that
nice. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna steal that.
Did you get the second team?
I did the last time I played this game.
Okay,
not this time.
Okay, I mean there are also a few scenes that happen in this game. If you carried your save over, there's a couple people who run into you and go, "Oh yeah, I saw Isaac," and they give you items and stuff. So there's a few little things like that do happen also.
Yeah, like finishing the like a few almost plot switches. Like if you did the end game dungeon, the crossbow Nile in the first game, that changes a few things.
Yes, that dungeon was hard.
I love that dungeon.
Not compared to the dungeon in this game, though, near the end, but...
Well, let's face it, that boss from that dungeon got a upgrade in the second one.
Yeah, a lot of bosses did near the end. And one thing we haven't mentioned yet is that this game brings back the Djinn system that you had in the first game. And one of the things you get to carry over is if you type in your code, all your Djinn, which are like your little magic users, your little summons, they all carry over, which also upgrade the stats of each character they're equipped to. And I have to have it where each one goes to whatever element that character is. I can't do it any other way. It's not possible for me.
Well,
that's what a lot of people did, probably.
Yeah, I've heard other people doing that, but you can get way more powerful magic and kind of move classes around on the fly by mixing elements, which is something I always liked about these games.
You also get items that will upgrade or change their class too. I sold those immediately. I used the card themed one before I had Pierre because it had the one that lowers the encounter rate because I was lost so much. I didn't mess with the encounter rate at all because I wanted all the battles because I also played this in time 2 speed on my phone on an emulator because that's the right way to play Golden Sun in my opinion. Or any GBA or any GB RPG. You have every so often I had to turn it off because some of those puzzles you cannot do at times 2 speed, by the way. I tried. There were certain puzzles that you barely have enough time, and if you're in time 2 speed with no controller, you cannot make those runs, even with save states. So don't try.
You'll hate this, Mike, but I pulled out an old Game Boy Advance.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. The way that I play games, the phone is so much simpler for me, and I love save states and time 2 speed, so I can't otherwise.
Well, that's the thing. With this game, you can save it all. You could save it anywhere.
Yeah, but you can't save in the middle of the battle when you're trying to cheat things.
And you get sleep mode, which was apparently just a thing that GBA could do, and not every game used it. I don't know why not every game would use that, but this game does.
GBA could use it. DS could use it. I think DSi could use it.
Well, with the DS and DSi, you can just it's built in. If you close the screen, it just goes into sleep mode. GBA, it could do it, but not every game could. Like it had to be coded in for some reason.
It's weird to me. You think every game would...
Well, let's see. Look at the original design. Well, look at the original design for the Game Boy Advance. It was a big unit you held in both hands, and then they came up with the SP model.
The micro. Mm-hmm. Was there a Game Boy Advance micro, right?
There was.
Okay, I was thinking right.
Came out after the DS, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah, because Game Boy Advance was around for a long time.
Yep. Not as long as the Game Boy.
Not as long as the original Game Boy.
Didn't have its Pokemon system, moment.
I thought the Djinn system was really well, and also I felt like this game didn't have as many hidden Djinn on the world map. It had more in dungeons and more just around that I found. Like I had a guide, but I also found most just by wandering around the game too. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel as handicapped as I felt in the first one in trying to find the Djinn, because in the first one I missed a few Djinn that I had to go all the way back to get. In this game, I only missed later Djinn. I didn't miss any early one.
I found them way harder to get to.
Oh.
Just the puzzles were so much more complicated.
They are. There are some really complicated puzzles in this game that I don't think I would have figured out without a guide. My brain would have taken a long time.
Not with that attitude.
That's the way I play games. I just cheat. It's why I hated Breath of the Wild when it first came out. Yeah, that's the right way to play. Like, one of the abilities that I want to talk about that you get in this game from one of the rocks, you get an ability called Sand, where your characters go underneath the sand and, like, swim underneath it to get through places, and they have to pop up back in the sand. That was really cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
Good way to get past barriers.
Yeah. I mean, and I felt like the game did especially in the later half of the game, which, like, when you do some of the options, this game has, like, I think 4 optional dungeons. You have to use a lot of different abilities to get by. And I was really surprised with how much it made me use my abilities to progress through dungeons near the end, or in general. I like that a lot. And I like how when you get an ability, it does the Zelda thing of making you use said ability in that dungeon to get through it.
Mm-hmm. There's a really nice sense of physicality to the dungeons because of those powers, the like pre-rendered style to it, which I have some issues with. I don't like how during cutscenes they'll occasionally just stop and wiggle for a few seconds before they keep talking. I'm like, what is this supposed to convey? You're just like bouncing up and down like a rubber doll? I don't know. Do they make rubber dolls? It just looks wrong. Makes my skin crawl a little bit. And I'm like, I don't know what that was supposed to convey. But in dungeons, it's very nice.
Okay, I don't remember seeing that, but I might not have just been paying attention. Is most likely what it was.
God, it's like when you finish the Pirates, they're trying to convey this like silent conversation between the town's 2 mayors, and they just look at each other and wiggle for a good 30 seconds. Like, what is happening here? This isn't real life body language. Nobody understands what's happening here.
And I also find it funny in this game how Felix doesn't talk, even though he talked in the previous game, but now that you're playing as him, he doesn't talk. But when you see Isaac talks now.
So he has one line. His chat box comes up once. It's an ellipses. It's like a longer ellipses. It's like 9 dots. Isaac, and that's what Isaac has in the first game. He has that one dialogue box with the 9 ellipses, and they happen simultaneously in canon, like when they're both at the lighthouse at the end of the first game. So I think that's where Isaac starts talking and Felix stops talking. That's my theory.
Okay, that's kind of funny.
And then again, how many times do you have a game where your protagonist talks? Well,
many now.
It's common.
Yeah, many now.
Yeah,
Not back
it's
then.
common to have I mean, it wasn't unheard of, but silent protagonists in RPGs are a thing. It's just strange that both of those silent protagonists talk. I mean, plenty of games do that.
Yes.
Yeah, like I keep bringing up Dragon Quest because the series reminds me of it a lot. But in a bunch of Dragon Quest games, like 5 and 11, you see images or flashbacks of your character, and your character is just talking, sometimes in cases where you were there and not talking. So I guess the dialogue's just implied.
That's one of my big missing spots. I have never played Dragon Quest 4 or 5 or 6 or any of those.
Oh, 4, 5, and 6, just some of my favorite games.
I tried 4 once on an emulator on a tablet, but I didn't finish it, and I regret that. But
give 5 a go. 5's real good.
I want to. I own it.
My only exposure to the Dragon Quest series is the music.
But since I can't comment on the music in this game because I played this entire game mute.
The music's really
Shame
good.
on you.
The music's really, really good.
In my defense, I was playing this in places where I don't think I could have had the sound on. So let's just say that.
Yeah, like playing it at work or something.
Because in my job, I get up and have to go from place to place all the time to pick up things or grab something or check something. So when I'm walking or waiting for an elevator, I just pull up my phone to play a little bit while I wait. Oh, elevator, okay, go back, and then I can do my work. Because I'm very, like, that's the only way I beat this game in time was to play it in between everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I couldn't. I didn't
it's
play
definitely good music.
And not just the music, the sound effects are great. I love, that's what I love about the rhythm of the battle. It's just these chunky sound effects with these smooth animations. Just it's great.
Plus, I was in time 2 speed, so sound wouldn't have looked good or sounded good.
Well, in 1x speed, it sounds great.
It does. It is great.
And that's hard to do on the GBA.
Yeah, the GBA
does not have a sound chip.
Well, the GBA sort of has a balance of because it can use. I mean, they ported so many Super Nintendo games onto the GBA.
Oh yeah.
But have you heard those Final Fantasy games unpatched on the GBA?
Yeah.
There you go. There's your answer.
I have those on mine.
I was also surprised the amount of Jin that are in this game. Like, not even the ones that carry over, just the amount that you get just in this game alone is just enormous how many you have to collect if you're going for it.
Well, and that was in part to work with the new summons that they put in the game, in the franchise there.
So this game, Golden Sun 1 and 2 both have the system where you can cast summons if you use your Jin in battle. Like one will give you double strike, one will heal your team. To give some examples, one will boost your attack, and they earn a meter builds up, and then you can do summons. In the first game, you only did summons that were of said element, 1, 2, 3, 4. In this game, you can get tablets that you find in hidden dungeons that then give you special summons that use multiple elements.
Yeah,
and it's always nice to have a little reward for exploring the world map more. That's why I honestly like the Jin on the world map in the first game and in this. And that's another one.
The summons were... I didn't use a lot of the extra summons you get because I would never... Jenna was my healer, so in like the harder... Anyone who listens to me enough in this podcast, when I play RPGs, I only use attack. I try not to ever use spells except for healing.
Huh.
I don't know why. Even in this game where you get MP or PP every turn after every battle, I don't want to use it in battles. I don't know why. I have this weird thing of trying to hold on to MP as long as I can, except for healing. And I do it in every game I play.
I think I did that as a kid, but don't anymore.
No, that's because you're playing right. I don't agree with it. Like I am the first one to say it is not the correct way. Golden Sun is trying to make me use spells because, like I said, you get energy back after battle, so you can easily keep going. And I'm just like, no, we're gonna beat them with attack.
Yeah, well, the thing is though, with so many enemies attacking you at once, and they can do some pretty decent damage if you're not ready for them. You have to rely on the magic, and since it has that splash and that cone of attack, that's even better.
But the way that I look at it is if I beat enough enemies down with physical attacks, I'll fight more and I'll get better. So therefore I'll be stronger when I get to the boss fight. That's also my theory. You're
also going faster if you're using the spells. So
well, when you're playing at times 2 speed, you go pretty fast anyway.
Yes.
This game is really fast in like I sometimes put it in times 4 speed too, like when I was just grinding to the end of the game. Then I put in times 4 speed and just grind the hell out of it. But yeah, I don't recommend that, by the way.
Yeah, there's 11 summons that you can do using a mixed combination. And there's another 2 if you get all the characters scared because let's see. The summon of Karen.
I don't think I got that one.
Yeah, you need all the Djinn available to get that one. 8 Venus Djinn and 2 Jupiter Djinn.
God.
And Iris, the most powerful summons in the game.
I did not get
requires 4 Mercury Djinn and 9 Mars Djinn to summon. And in the first game, you only had a maximum of 7 for each element.
Yes. And this game has 72 Jinn altogether, because when you get to a good chunk in the game near the end, we mentioned before, the other team joins you, and you get all their Jinn and everything they had.
Yep.
So to use that big a summon, would you have to also get all the Jinn from the first game?
Yep.
Okay.
So this game does a real, I consider it a fuck you moment, is the best way for me to put it. There's a dungeon in this game that you can only go to if you got all the Jinn in Golden Sun 1 and all the Jinn in Golden Sun Lost Age. You cannot go into the dungeon otherwise.
Yeah.
Guess it's for people who fully mastered the series, like big diehards.
That's why I consider it so much a second half of it. I don't consider Lost Age now that I played both, I don't consider Golden Sun 1 and Lost Age 2 separate games. To me, it's just one giant game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how anyone that I tell to play this, because after I played Lost Age, I've actually recommended this to multiple RPG fanatics because I was blown away by this game. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Are you one of those Lord of the Rings is one movie kind of people?
No. Lord of the Rings is 3 movies.
But it's one book.
Because they're self-contained enough. Kind of. I don't know. Maybe I consider it one. I don't know. I haven't thought about it in a while. I haven't seen them in a while either.
Yeah. You definitely need all the Djinn because, let's face it, to just tackle that boss this time around, you need to have them all. And he's got bit.
You can swear.
I don't think swearing's enough.
One thing that we started to touch on earlier that I want to talk about is when you get the second team, you can switch out team members in a fight. And if your first team dies, the second team will jump into battle too. I found that out by accident when I was doing one of the secret bosses. All of a sudden, I just let my team wipe because I was like, fuck this. And then all of a sudden the other team, Isaac and his team jump in. I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah. That's a brilliant move.
It blew me away. And the game, like the final like dungeons expect you in the boss fights to use the different teams and switch out people. And that really blew me away. Like that, that made this game go up on my list of RPGs that I played. Like, it really, really surprised me in a good way.
Yeah, but it's like prior to when you meet up with the team. Like, if you go to Lemuria, that's where you start seeing that this world was suffering because alchemy was basically sealed away.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because even Lemuria, that's probably why Piers had left Lemuria. It's because he was going to assess if what they thought was true. And they find out it is. The world is shrinking.
But also, like, getting to go to Lemuria, because Lemuria is the town that you go to in the first game, or not the first game. Lemuria you hear about in the first game. Is like this, and then you get to go to it, and I thought that was... And there's also a super hard boss fight to get there, too. Which is not...
Yeah, Neptune.
There's a reason Bobby can't find it.
Isn't Bob... I think, yeah, Bobby's dead, too, so...
Mm-hmm. Didn't get there.
Another thing that surprised me is this is kind of a joke going back 3 years, but when I played the first Golden Sun for the show back in episode 4, one of my co-hosts hated Kraden for some reason, and Kraden's gone most of the first game, but Kraden's in your team the entire time in this game.
He's terrible. Yeah. What a terrible person.
He is. He's more a scholar.
Yeah, he's also kind of betraying you in a way. Like, he's hiding something, like why he's really on this mission.
I think his real reason on the mission is basically he's a scholar. Scholars sometimes do things so they can learn stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like endanger children and oh god, and just so as this game starts with the post-credit scene from the first, where Jenna and Kraden are unconscious, like, you know, not unconscious but not moving, talking on an island, starving to death. Jenna just says something or is annoyed because she's starving to death and thinks her brother's dead. And Kraden's just like, "Oh, testy today, aren't we?" And he's like, "I guess your brother just died." I'm like, I really get the sense Jenna and Kraden have been traveling together for months now, because they're traveling together for the whole first game, and she is just done with him. She is totally fed up by the time Lost Age starts.
He's such an asshole, though. He really is. I don't know, just the mechanic of having both teams together was something that I don't think I've seen in an RPG like this before. I mean, yes, I played RPG with multiple characters, but just the fact that I wasn't expecting them to join you, even though I knew I transferred my stuff over, but I didn't expect them to join. I was really surprised when they actually joined me.
It's cool.
It really is.
It's really cool.
It, in my opinion, makes this game really jump up a level that it wouldn't have without that.
Yeah, and it's it's important. I mean, we're dissing on Kraden again.
That's fine. We can diss on him. He deserves it.
He deserves it to a point. He's not Alex.
Oh God, I did not expect Alex to be like I thought before I played this game. I always thought Alex was going to join you. Like, I was waiting for him to join. Then when Pierre joined, I'm like, I guess Alex isn't joining. I was really surprised that he was kind of like a villain in this and not part of your team.
He always struck me as like the villain who was hiding something.
Yeah, he was against Mia.
Wasn't he related to Mia?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
they're both. They're not blood relation, but they're both from the tribe, the water tribe, as they put it. So they're not blood relation. They are probably rival adepts in their own tribe. But
Okay,
supposed to be a friendly rivalry.
I always thought it was her brother for some reason.
The wiki says they're cousins.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Why they have not as close. I was thinking brothers for some reason.
No, the only two siblings in the game are Felix and Jenna.
Yeah. Oh, and as I mentioned earlier, that I wanted to double back because I didn't finish my thought. Dan, did you get any of the forgeable material in this game?
A few of them. I didn't use a ton.
Okay. Did you? I'm assuming you didn't find the town where you can fuse them together.
No, but
okay.
Once you get those materials, it's like, oh, this is in here.
The best items in the game are from materials, obviously. Obviously, RPG, but.
Yep.
That element of it, and the fact that the best material actually dropped in the secret dungeon, it's how you get the best material in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was like, you get it throughout the game, but you can actually farm it in the end, which I did.
And I do think it's just worth mentioning. Obviously, it doesn't make a huge influence on the game, but the party jumping in, the crafting is all stuff that they had in Shining the Holy Ark, which was the turn-based game. The turn-based RPG they made before Golden Sun, which is awesome. That game's fantastic.
What system is that?
Sega Saturn.
Okay.
They were owned by Sega. They were called...
I really got it. One day I'm going to play Sega Saturn RPGs. Like, I know I have to one day play Panzer Dragoon.
Oh, they're so good.
one day. I'm pretty sure you can emulate Sega Saturn by now, I'm sure.
Yeah, totally.
Probably
That's
could,
how I
yeah.
played the Shining games. I grew up with the Genesis ones. But yeah, they're that's another thing that makes it feel like one RPG. Just, now we're bringing in those mechanics we have in our house style almost into the full picture.
It definitely, and that was some of the stuff that surprised, and like the forgeable stuff, like you also get rusted items throughout the game, rusted sword, rusted this, and some of that ends up being like one of these items called rusted sword is the best sword in the game, hands down.
That's fun.
Oh, yeah, it was Excalibur or something?
No, Excalibur is the most powerful, but the best one is the Soul Blade, because it has a 30% chance, unless you raise your luck a lot, of doing an attack called Mephisto. Some kind of like, he shoots a meteor down like he's Sephiroth, and it just does tons of damage to the enemies. And it was the way that I beat the game, because I would, on some of the hard boss fights, I would rely on Felix doing that attack, because everything else was useless, and he'd do like 1,000 in one hit. So...
Oh, right, because you wouldn't use magic.
Well, I do in boss fights, but it wasn't. Some of the secret bosses in this game, like example, like one of the secret bosses, or two of them do this, where they hit you and then they use your summons for you because they're nice like that.
Oh yeah,
fascinating. I love that.
I was pissed when I found that out, because I'm sitting here doing my thing, using all my skitting, using all my gin, getting my big summons ready, and all of a sudden he starts summoning on me instead. When I'm getting ready to do it, and I'm like, oh, okay, don't do that.
Yeah, that's why I think one of the times I played it many years ago, I went against Dullahan, and I put all my gins into standby, and I thankfully could attack first, and I did all the summoning. Go at those nasty, powerful attacks on him. He wiped out first team, didn't wipe out the second team because I was just doing all those damn summons to get rid of them. I didn't beat the secret boss Dullahan, unfortunately. I tried. I failed, and then I came back 10 levels higher, but there was a sand puzzle I had to do, or not a sand, but some kind of puzzle I had to do, and I just didn't care enough. Because all you get is a summon, and I'm like, I'm not going to use the summon anyway, and I just don't care, so I just went and beat the game instead. But
I always get to that point in long RPGs where, because there's a point like in the middle of the game where I'm like really enjoying it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do everything. All this extra content's fun. Like I just got that with Elden Ring, and I'm just like, okay, how much of this am I actually going to do?
If they would have given me equipment, I think I would have went and did it. But the fact it was a summon that I had no intention of using made me not care.
Oh, the summons are so cool, though.
Yeah, I have to use so many gin at that point for these far summons. I was like, I won't do it. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wouldn't do it, so I'm like, and you had to go through a puzzle where you have like a shadow of yourself on the other side, and where you move, the shadow moves, and you have to like hold, get the. It's like a block, not a shadow, a block. You have to stand in certain places and move against the wall to get it to right where you want it, and I just didn't want to do that again. So I just didn't do it. like secret dungeons, like there's another boss that's a wizard with little orbs, and he was another one I couldn't beat because some orbs heal him, some orbs make him almost invincible. I'm like, and I would try to do my summons, and he would like block my summons. I'm like, fuck this.
Didn't think that. I don't remember him blocking him, but definitely.
Maybe not blocking him per se, but they would cast defensive spells on him where he didn't take much damage. So I went through all this trouble, and he would barely get hurt, and I would be very upset.
Oh yeah, I do believe it.
It was also like I felt over leveled, but I was only in my 40s, and I beat this game in the 50s because I got to the final boss, got my ass handed to me twice, and then I just went and leveled for 10 levels and came back and kicked his ass.
Oh barely. And it's definitely a tricky thing to beat it when.
But just like the challenge in this game, like I was surprised. I was also surprised that the secret dungeon, the final secret dungeon, is located inside a town that you need teleport on a block. Teleport being the last spell that you get in the game, or Psi Energy, that then sends you to the dungeon where you have to then show you have all the gin to open the door.
Oh yeah,
oh my god! Imagine solving that puzzle and getting there and being like, nope, you need to have 100%ed both this and the first game.
I was missing a few when I got there. And I'm like, don't tell me it's from the first game. I'm like, I'm positive I got everything from the first game. Don't tell me it wasn't. But
yeah, it's that you're talking the Animal Sanctum, and that is in Contigo. Yeah, you have to teleport to get there. And those are some. I just remember, I'm like, it's neat that you have to get them all, and that each one goes to a spot in that one room relating to its element.
Yeah, I was just so happy that this is a game where you can go, around the world and do things. Like I also was, when I found out you could farm Orcalium was like the best material to forge, And I also, like, when you get the materials to forge and you go to the blacksmith that does it for you, it can actually be different items. Like, the game tells you to save before you talk to him, or not the game, the guide does, and you can then, get different, get the right items. But you get really good items from the stuff that you farm. I was surprised.
Yeah, I was looking that up too. I mean, and I think it's supposed to be. I think was supposed to be orichalcum.
Yep.
Yes, but it was really cool to me to have that. I also, when I hear orichalcum, I think of if I remember correctly, there's an orange thing called orichalcum in Star Ocean: The Second Story or Second Evolution, whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah, orichalcum shows up.
Okay, so my memory wasn't wrong.
Yeah. The forgeable items in the game was dragon skin, dark matter, golem core, mithril silver, orichalcum, salamander tail, stardust, sylph feather, and tear stone.
This is what, like, Dan, I know that you didn't finish it for the show, but you should definitely go back and
I plan to. The first game was such a big part of my childhood.
Okay, good, because you will get, when I found out that I could farm this material in the final in the secret dungeon, I would just sit there and grind enemies just to get the material, because it was like, I don't like gambling in real life in any shape or form, but getting the materials and going to the blacksmith and like, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? It hit something for me that really was awesome. So
I just looked up orichalcum. Orichalcum is a theoretical metal mentioned by Plato as something located in Atlantis.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
There you go. And Lemuria is very much based on that.
Oh, yeah.
Atlantis. Yeah.
It's Atlantis.
Lemuria, Atlantis, they're both, quote, the lost civilizations. And
before you meet the second team, Isaac and his team, or the first team, you end up running into Minardi's. Are they brother and like Minardi's? The people that you killed in the first game that started all the problem. It's like their family, right, or something, or was it his sister?
They're all. I don't know if they were all sister, all related. I'd have to.
They're from the same clan, at least.
Yeah, they're from the same clan.
From the Mars clan.
From Prox.
And Prox is this town that you go to in the end of the game in the far north, which is where the Mars lighthouse is, and this whole town is just covered in snow. And I like this idea that they're trying to light the lighthouse because they're trying to save their town because their town is frozen to death, essentially.
Not that.
What was it?
Remember, as we said, that the world is
shrinking. Oh, shrinking. Yes, and they knew it, and they were trying to stop it.
In fact, it's getting closer to Prox as well as the Mars lighthouse. If they took any much longer, there would be no way to do it because the Mars lighthouse would have been gone.
Good point. Okay. I forgot about that because I was trying to pay attention to the story, but it's been a couple weeks.
Well, yeah, it is part of the story.
I don't remember. It was a game where I love RPGs and I love stories, but with this game, I was just having so much fun with the gameplay and the dungeons that I just wanted to get through the game. I didn't really care why. I just was having fun.
And it's a fun game.
It really hits that 32-bit RPG vibe. Mm-hmm. Like it's such a pure example of one of that. It's even on 2 discs.
It really is. And it just does a good job with like the dungeon. Like the last dungeon is actually pretty challenging when you go to the Mars lighthouse, but it also has a point where the game, you go through this dungeon, you do a bunch of things, and you open a door right by the entrance. The game tells you, this is the point of no return, buddy. Like, decide what you want to do. Mm-hmm. I like that. I really got a kick out of that.
And by the way, it was Karst and Minardi who were related. They're both sisters. Okay. Agatio, he's no relation. They're just all from the Fire.
You had her sister who came in, who's trying to avenge her, and be in that same race. Because they don't get involved till right by the first lighthouse that you find in this game. Then you fight them, and that's how you go and get Isaac and joins you.
I really like when you first see Karst, you can find her in a town. She's just an NPC, and you can tell her sister's dead, and she doesn't believe you. But if you try and read her mind, she like starts thinking back at you. It's like, oh, you can use synergy. Leave my thoughts to myself, you asshole. And like tells you off. She can see you doing it. God, the mind reading is such a good mechanic.
Oh, yeah.
Like having that extra bit of dialogue for every NPC in the game. I love it.
I never use it once. So it is not my, unless the game makes me, then I do, but it's not my thing otherwise.
Yeah, I was just playing through it a little bit, before we started this, and I used it right in the first town, and it was like, that tidal wave destroyed all our ships. We have none at all. And then when you talk to the guy, he's like, do you want to borrow a ship? So if you say yes, it's like, you heartless bastard, that tidal wave just destroyed all our ships.
I like it that the world is in trouble. I really like that whole vibe that the apocalypse is coming, but it's not the apocalypse of like something that you would normally see. Like the apocalypse you're going to get is like the world is going to just stop existing. I felt like that's kind of what's coming. I like that a lot.
And of course, the way you're trying to stop it is almost more actively causing problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think they in some way they took a little bit of a note from Terry Pratchett's book when they were thinking up Discworld, because Discworld literally should not function as it does, but it does, and that's because it has a high magic content.
Okay,
and so this is what would have happened to Discworld if all the magic was sealed away.
I find it hilarious how this whole quest is all because some big floating eyeball told you don't do it. I love that.
The big floating eyeball did it because people were, quote, abusing the magic.
Yeah.
And so we seal it away. Since you're abusing it, we're going to seal it away. And maybe didn't realize that it's also going to destroy the world.
You think a big floating eyeball with that much intelligence would figure it out at some point.
Did really seem all-knowing.
Yeah. And the game makes you fight the sister and the other guy, and they also do the same thing. They turn into two separate dragons that you end up fighting at one point, and you don't even know it's them until they're like, wait a second, they're dragons, and they figure it out when you kill them what they are, who you're fighting.
Yeah.
I like
that's
that
not
too.
The final boss.
No, I'm okay with that. Oh, God, I'm almost there, but... I was just surprised when I did get there to the final part of this dungeon. I left and went and did all the side quests. There's a turtle you can talk to. There's actually a trading mini quest in this game too. You completely screw yourself and sell an item off, where you have to like talk to mind read animals and trade with animals to get to it. You get a baby turtle that you give to a turtle that will then get you to a secret dungeon in the game. It was a little unique stuff like that really blew me away in this game. That really like made this game stand out in a way that I wasn't expecting. All the little islands you can go to, and there's so many little towns that are just around that you go to. Like you have to go back to Yampi Desert, which is an area you visit early in the game. You go back to way later, and there's a cave that you couldn't get to that you can now get to. It has one of the secret summons. Little things like that really like made me love this game more than I expected, and I was really surprised.
It rewards you for exploring.
It does. And like at one point, your airship can frickin' float for a little time, but it eats away at your MP of the party's MP. But you can make your airship float and it moves faster.
It's not an airship unless you're doing that.
Oh, it's ship. But you can't go over trees, but you can go over rivers and plains. But you'll be screwed because it has a meter that shows, and if you were doing it too long and you ran out of PP completely, you couldn't do it anymore. So you could just be stranded somewhere until you had to go fight and get more PP back. I thought that was cool.
At least it doesn't completely strand you.
No, and then you get teleport later in this game. The very end dungeon, you get teleport, which is a spell that you use to get in the secret dungeons. Plus, you use it to go to any town you've been to in the entire game, or any dungeon. You can go anywhere. And I'm like,
that late.
This game like really, it has a lot post game, a lot more than I expected for post game. And the post game bosses really expect you to use both teams. I felt. It wants you to use everybody when you do it.
Why wouldn't they?
I didn't expect it because depending how you play this, if you didn't transfer your save over, your characters would be 28. I transferred my characters over, did everything the first Golden Sun. They were in their low 30s, I think, about. And I beat this game with my main characters being about 55 and my other team being about late 40s, which was higher than I expected to have to be at.
Yeah.
Before we go on to the final boss, there anything you guys still want to touch on that we missed?
Well, I'd like to mention that their dice game they had in it. When they put the lucky dice, that was a decent challenge for a gambling game because you really couldn't overly exploit it. But when they put in the second one, these super lucky dice, that is a game that is entirely exploitable.
I didn't find this game, I don't think.
Why else have gambling in an RPG?
Well, even in other games, the gambling is iffy at best, and you can't really overbeat the system in it.
I also don't gamble in games.
Super Lucky Dice, it was, I forget which town it was in.
It's near the end, I think, because it might be one of like the final towns you go to, because you do have one of the last towns, well, Lemuria is where you get to finally use your lucky medals that you got throughout the game to get some equipment.
Well, they have another fountain like that elsewhere in the game, too. Let me see here.
I didn't find a different one. I just found that one. And I know that's Lemuria, I think, is where you use the game tickets, too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. What it boils down to, though, you get an award if you get a pair. You get an award if you get 2 pair. You get an award if you get 3 of a kind. You get an award if you get a 4 of a kind. And it's very easy, actually, to roll at least a pair on 4 dice.
I don't think I even found this. I wasn't looking for it either. So.
Well, okay, it's in Contigo.
Okay, that's one of the later towns you get access to near the end of the game.
This is also where, I think that's also the same town where you can access the final special temple.
Yes, which is inside the town. You have to use a teleport spell.
Yeah.
That kind of threw me for a loop, too, if I wouldn't have been cheating using the guide. I don't think I would have figured that out.
Yeah.
Well, you're not reading people's minds and looking for hints.
No, I wasn't.
With that game, though, like I said, it can be totally exploitable because the second part of it relies more on guessing if your next roll is going to be higher or lower. And say you roll a 5, it's pretty much sure bet, close to a sure bet that's going to be higher. And if you know how, like, the probability stats of what numbers are going to roll out, you can actually use that to literally get yourself a nice little bankroll together so you can always get your rare weapons, like you were saying about doing. Using the rare weapons, selling them, and then using it sort of like a storage for them.
It wasn't ideal, but it worked.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal, but with that lucky dice game, it just does it.
I would have liked to have the ability to store items in this game. I mean, when you get the other characters, you can store stuff in them, which is what I did. And then I also traded all the equipment around to give them the best equipment I possibly could.
Oh, yeah, and that's what you really should do with that. I mean, when you have your team, you start out with, like going back to the first Golden Sun, you've got 2 characters. That's 30 spots to hold stuff in. When you get the next guy, now it's up to 45. Then you get your 4th person, Mia. Let's see, that's like Isaac, Garrett, Ivan, and Mia.
Yes.
Now you have 60 slots there. And then the second one, you have Felix, Jenna, and Sheba to start. So you're starting with 45. You get Piers, that's another 15. So you're at 60. Now you have everybody. You've got 120 spots to hold stuff in. And when you got 3 people holding herbs, you can group them together. Yes, they can only hold a maximum of 30 items per slot of the same item. But why are you having 5 people carrying herbs when you need all these storage slots?
I threw away all herbs. I actually, before I went to the final boss, after I leveled up a whole bunch, I actually went and bought a ton of healing items to be prepared, because one of my crutches in this game when I played originally, or how I play every RPG, is I had all my healing is not debated, but focused on one person. And if you killed Jenna, I was in trouble. And the final bosses did that. The secret stuff, they killed Jenna and I would lose my healer. So then I had to start playing differently. And I don't normally use items in games either. I save them forever, just because. So the game made me do it. And I found that was interesting that the game forced me to do things I didn't want to do. It also made me impressed with this game. All right, I want to talk about the final boss. So you go up to the Mars Lighthouse, the final lighthouse that you've been trying to get to this entire series, and Isaac's with you. And you see the eyeball comes up and tells you that it's not going to let you go through, the eyeball from the first game. And then you see a 3-headed dragon. Crane's like, wait a second, you shouldn't fight this dragon, guys. I think I know what it is. And you cut him off and you start fighting. And earlier, when you go to the snow town looking for Felix's parents who were kidnapped, that's why Felix was doing this whole thing, which I don't think we mentioned yet. They're not in town. They're missing somewhere. And then I remember when they said, I'm like, oh no. They're like, remember when we fought that 2-headed dragon? It was actually, whatever the 2 minority was. And it's like, oh no.
Yeah, they realize what they're up against.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 3-phased fight. And the reason, like I say, 3-phased is because one has 3 heads, but if you use summons that do like an incredible amount of damage, it has caps of how much damage you can do before you get to the next phase on purpose. So you can't.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a very hard fight. It kicked my ass.
Oh, yeah, it does.
I was impressed. I was really impressed with how hard the fight was, and I was not expecting that.
Oh, yeah.
And then the story is you find out that you just got done killing both of Felix's parents, and I think... Was it both his parents?
I'm trying to look that up. It is Felix's parents and Isaac's father, Kyle.
Yeah. It's kind of fucked up. And I think they die, too. I don't think they survive. If I remember correctly, they don't survive this fight. Like, you kill them, and they try to heal them, and they're just dead. So
I think when... I'm trying to relook it up here because of the whole thing, because when you've learned throughout the game that lighting all 4 lighthouses will also create the golden sun.
The name of the game.
Yep. The thing is...
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up right now, but I can't remember if they survive or not, because there's a couple different things that happen.
Yes. When the lighthouse is lit, they're revived.
Okay.
They are revived, and this is thanks due to the enormous wave of psi energy unleashed by the beacon.
Okay, and then you have a little scene where everyone kind of says goodbye, and they're all getting ready to travel together and get on the ship. And then you see Alex for the first... Like, you see Alex throughout this game here and there, but not very much. And then they talk about how all the power is going to converge in one spot when you light the lighthouses back on the mountain that you started on. Is it Val or Vale?
In Vale, yep.
You see Alex... In the credits, as the credits are playing, you'll see Alex climbing the mountain in Vale to get to the top of the mountain. And then the very last scene is him standing there to get all this power. The whole reason he was doing this. And the big giant eyeball shows up and kills him. Or he dies, or somehow he dies.
Basically, the Wise One did have one failsafe. See, Alex is the kind of person... Why? Wise One sealed away psi energy.
Yeah, but...
He wants power to rule. He wants power to be the all-powerful. And the event is left to think, because of what he's done, and then gets swallowed in by the mountain, or when the mountain's destroyed or something, he gets destroyed. It's thought he gets hurt or killed in the process.
Okay. I don't think he survives, I'm assuming. It didn't look like it.
You know what?
I don't want to know. Stop there. But
I did see
that. He looks to die. That's how I'm going with it. And
he does look to die, and unfortunately, spoiler, he doesn't, because he's back.
On Dark Dawn.
He just said he didn't want to know.
Yeah, it's okay. I can't complain for being spoiled for a game that's like 11 years old, so I can't.
You literally just said you don't want to be spoiled.
I know.
You
didn't stop him. And then you get a little...
not as evil as Alex.
You get a little comic like scene where they're all together, all 8 characters, and they're seeing their family, and they're back at Vale, and Vale was destroyed. But they survived.
Yeah.
And then the game ends, and you get the end.
It's a beautiful game, story and everything, and music.
Dan, have you ever played Dark Dawn?
Me? No.
Yeah. Okay.
I have.
Okay, I have not, and I want to now, but it won't be anytime too soon. But I want to now. Is Dark Dawn a complete game, at least?
It feels like a complete game, but it also feels like there could be more to the story, and they've never released a sequel to it.
They never will.
It ends with a slight cliffhanger.
Don't go any farther than that.
I won't go any farther than that.
And it came out, one day I want to play it for sure. And the other thing about this game, both Golden Sun 1 and Lost Age only got re-released once, and that was on the Wii U Virtual Store. And that's it.
I did not know that.
Yep, I have one on the Wii U.
But why wouldn't it be, like, you think this would have been released on the 3DS or something else, but nope, just
3DS didn't have Game Boy Advance.
Oh, it didn't?
Nope.
No, it did not have Game Boy Advance capabilities. It got rid of it.
It had the capabilities. They just never put it on the virtual. Well, they put 10 games on the virtual console, only accessible for people who bought the game before the price drop. Bought the system before the price drop.
I can't tell you how dumb that is to me.
I mean, that's how I played it. I made the 3DS think it was one of those 10 games.
Oh, you can trick it?
Oh, yeah, easy.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I do know that the original DSs had a bit of backwards compatibility in them, that you could plug a Game Boy Advance into it.
Yes.
Game into it and play it.
But not with the 3DS because they had that little manual picture where it shows it doesn't fit, I think, or something like that.
Well, I think what it was when they went with the DS Lite or the DSi, they added internet capability, but they had to get rid of something, and they got rid of the Game Boy Advance technology for it in it.
Like, I regret that this game took me almost 20 years to finally play. Like, I regret that now. I don't normally say that on this show, but I really did regret that I never played this when I was younger, because I think this game would have been something that I would have been talking about for years. And now I'll be talking about it, and people are like, "What? What's Golden Sun?"
Well, I think there's some Golden Sun references in Smash Brothers.
There is
Some of the trophies and stickers.
And I think in Project M or Brawl Plus or one of the big fan Super Smash Brothers mods, Isaac's playable.
That's cool. He deserves it.
Oh yeah, any of those characters would be good in Super Smash.
Isaac or Felix, I would say you'd have to have one, not the others, but just because they're more main characters. But then you have another swordsman, so you don't need, for what I've heard. So, all right, I'm going to go on to questions, comments, or memories. Actually, before we go there, something I forgot to say at the top of the show, but if you're still listening, we're going to do a giveaway because I have too many damn Steam codes. I need to start getting rid of stuff. So we're going to pick a random Steam code. We're going to go back to the far list. Let's see if this works. I'm going to give you the River City Ransom Underground for Steam, which is T3PJIQ7G3Z440P6. And that is for River City Ransom Underground for Steam. I hope it still works. I've had it for years.
Don't worry, everybody. I'm not going to take it from you. I'm not interested in River City Ransom.
I love River City Ransom. That game rules.
I don't even know why I hope that was the key I was giving away, not the key I was giving away. We'll find out. I had a picture of 3 different keys, and I'm like, I wonder what one was what. It's been so long. Actually, I'm trying to see when the hell I took this picture, if I can find info. I know I'm great radio right now. Let's see details. I've had this picture for 2019, September 20th. So if it doesn't work, I'm sorry. Hopefully it works. All right, enough of that. Let's go on to
time period on them.
Questions, comments, or memories. And I did get a few. We'll start with, I watched the entire Overblood Super Replay group. From Justin Bowman, this and Minish Cap is the best GBA ever, offered by whole light years for sure. I agree with you now. Like, I wouldn't have a year ago, but I do now.
I'd say it's a bit superior to Minish Cap, but...
Oh, Minish Cap's good.
Minish Cap's up there. I would probably put both Minish Cap and Astro Boy the Omega Factor above this, but
I've never played that
really
yet.
Good. It's really good.
What kind of game is it? I've heard a lot about it.
It's a beat 'em up, but it has RPG elements, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but
okay, that's fine.
Stuff happens in that game.
You got my attention. Maybe one day I'll play it. I've heard a lot about it over the years, but I have no love for Astro Boy, so I've stayed away from it.
Yeah, you don't need it. It's a collaboration between Treasure and the branch of Sega that made Crazy Taxi, and it rules.
Okay.
But yeah, these games are up there, and as far as games that mean something to me, Golden Sun's up there.
Okay. Now I want to try Astro Boy one day. I've been meaning to. All right, and then from Ricky Hannigan, Golden Sun 1 and 2 need to be added to Switch yesterday. Being able to see Irish yeet enemies into the sun on a big screen would be great. Playing through 1 and then getting the password to send all my stuff over to 2, having to eventually fight my old party, which I don't remember that. Getting that awesome winged boat that could fly, all the summons still look amazing, especially Catastrophe, and just running around towns and randomly mind-reading villagers made this game amazing to explore.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play it on a big screen without unofficial emulation, you could always get that Wii U version.
Yeah.
But do it quick.
You know what? They do.
Oh, yeah.
Where to do that? They just do it as one big game, as it was meant to be.
They should. Then you don't have to transfer over your save.
Release it for the N64. I'd buy that cart.
Well, you could put both cartridges together, I feel like, without much trouble, and release it as one game on, Switch.
I'd rather play it on N64. I would love to see that. But sure, I probably...
You're not going to get that.
I'd probably support this on Switch.
This should be on Switch. From Jonathan Stepson, Golden Sun 1 and 2 literally led me to meeting 2 of my best friends while playing 2 in school during lunch. My future friends, Mike and Tim, brothers, came up and asked if I was playing Golden Sun, if they could watch. I said yes. And that had led to a decade-long friendship. I can't tell you how much we talked about Golden Sun, who were our favorite characters, what we wanted in the sequel, where to find all those sneaky Jin, and which element we would use in real life. While sadly I lost my copy a while back, it still is without a doubt my favorite Nintendo game ever, and I need to get a new copy. Okay. And from Oakley Gleason, Golden Sun's a fun and inventive RPG with a very likable world and cast. I really do believe it's one of Nintendo's most overlooked IPs, and it deserves a comeback. I absolutely adore a package remake of the first 2 games in the series, but on the Switch. they did something similar to what they're doing with Advance Wars right now, it'd be a dream come true. Okay, I agree. This should really be remade.
I don't know about the look of that.
Okay, I don't like the look of Advance Wars, the new one, but we're also not getting it anytime too soon. So that got delayed indefinitely right now until things calm down in the world, which is, I mean, makes sense. But I agree that I don't like the look at all. I really don't like that look. It's too cartoony for me. So don't change the look. Just re-release the game. And last one from this group, Lance Howard, bring back Golden Sun and use that HD 2D style that Octopath Traveler has. But the third one was a massive disappointment.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about Dark Dawn. I think that style would work really well.
I think so too. I mean, I'm just so excited Little Live is coming back.
Well,
coming out in some official fashion in America.
Have you seen the trailers for that HD 2D Dragon Quest III remake?
No, I don't think I have.
It has a kind of behind the back 3/4 view of the party when you first enter battle. You know, it goes back to first person, but it really reminded me of the look of Golden Sun.
Oh, when is this coming out?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they've announced it.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. This does look pretty cool. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I mean, I just want to see the games get re-released, to be honest, so people will know what they're missing.
Mm-hmm. They should be.
And from
be re-released.
The Golden Sun group, yes. I mean, I think almost all games should be re-released if they can. And this is definitely one of them. Jed McDaniels, it is the second half. Golden Sun was too large for 2 carts. They made it 2 carts. They are great games and need a remake. The battle system and mechanics is super fun. Agreed. Oh, here's a good one. From Antonio Sanchez, I remember that I got stuck for days looking at how to help Piers to get back his black orb. I could see that being a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, right. From Ignacio Bees, amazing game. It has almost everything that Golden Sun 1 features and more. I still miss Isaac's battle theme, some melodies here and there, and the simplicity of the first part, but on the other hand, it's really an upgrade on it. Felix is a true hero, too. Okay.
Yeah.
From Belai Emerkill, I was at GameStop when the truck came at 9 a.m. to bring the game on release date. I got there before the truck even arrived. I probably played it nonstop for 2 weeks in a row before I beat it. Crazy nostalgic once you get Isaac back and figure out your favorite combination. It's basically the first game, but expanded in every way. Oh, here's a different take. From Jackie's Bigger, it was my least favorite of the 3. Way too many unnecessary towns and quests just to get the main focus of the story. I also really hated the villains. They had no purpose and added nothing to the game. That's interesting. I don't agree. Interesting.
Well,
I kind of agree with the world design. I can't say much about the villains.
Yeah,
well,
they don't really show up to
when you really look at it, the only real villain that I think is in Golden Sun is Alex, and you
Piers.
never do fight him.
Yeah.
Not Piers. Piers is on your team.
It's rude.
But Alex, he's like the real villain.
I can agree with that. You don't know it, though. Like, you really don't see him as the villain until the end of the game, but yeah.
Maybe you don't.
I didn't expect him to be the villain ever. I did not expect that. I thought he was just somebody who had his own had his own motives, but I didn't see him as a villain. I also thought he would join you or something. I wasn't expecting the way the game went, where he's kind of like that hidden villain that you don't even fight him.
Yeah, and that's I think part of the beauty of the story of this game, because what you think you are fighting our villains, and then you find out they're actually trying to save the world.
Yeah, and then keep going.
Yeah, and then basically it makes you rethink what you've been doing, like what you did in the first game. Was I actually doing the right thing?
No, because a giant eyeball told you to.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's just the story makes it so beautiful that all these characters are so complex. Your only, quote, real villains are literally ones you never face, or they're just people who are being a complete ass.
And from the last group I'm going to read from RPG Sanctuary, from Yuri Pimento, I love that saga. From Josh Block, Golden Sun was one of my first ever RPGs, and did it ever light a fire in my heart. I remember taking turns with my brothers to play this game and fighting over it because we all loved it so much. Truly grateful for the series, and it formed me into the gamer I am today. I really wish I would have played this sooner in my life. Okay, another one, Lauren Rotiel. I would love for a trilogy release on Switch similar to Collection of Mana. I agree with that more.
Yeah, I mean, a trilogy release would be a good idea. I mean, they can maybe improve on Dark Dawn.
I do want to try a Dark Dawn now, really bad.
You do. You should play it.
I will.
It does add to the story.
One day. I don't know when, but it will happen. And from Courtney Appleton, I really enjoyed the battle system and the plot, but the dialogue was just painful to get through.
I can see that.
All right.
I can
read. Oh, what were you going to say?
It's the bouncing for me. Like if I'm not into a cutscene, the weird pacing of the dialogue really gets to me, which doesn't happen too much, but there are definitely points where I'm like, I really gotta go. This is really irritating how slow this conversation's going.
It's not so bad in times 2 speed, but no, I can get it. They would get long sometimes. They talk a lot.
Yeah.
From David Vuriel, these 2 games are on my top 3 list. Okay. All right, and let's see here from Paul Agradio, my favorite among the series. I love everything about it. The story was well written, the background music, the characters, the memories. I would definitely get this for $60 if this is ported to Switch, or better yet, a remake. Here's one we didn't talk about, but I want to mention this one. From Alan Perzetta. I liked it till the Trident pieces fetch quest in the second game, then I gave up. I'm going to try again this year, possibly using a guide to find those pieces. You had to find 3 different parts of this Trident that you then use to get to Lemuria, which I didn't have a problem with. I thought it was kind of cool that you had to put it together.
Yeah, I mean that's the fun of getting a boat in an RPG. Just there's a bunch of different stuff you can do in different orders. Go, gather the clues. I don't know. The Triforce quest is my favorite part of Wind Waker, so maybe I shouldn't be talking.
I don't. And last one I'm going to read from Joey Arnold. One of the first RPGs I played. Spent hours figuring out and getting lost on the huge, my 8-year-old brain, and even now maps. Love this game. Always will. All right, and we're going to go to Shelf Stacker Bach. And Dan, why don't you go first?
I think this would be a stack game for me. Like right now it's on my shelf because I'm actively playing it. I do want to finish it. But there's just enough that annoyed me that I'm kind of put off by it and probably won't replay it too much. But, I love this world. I love that first game. I like these characters. Love the look. So, yeah, stack.
Okay, that works. And Richard, what about you?
Well, I have a lot of fond memories of playing this game. And when you put this on, you either put it with saying shelf stacker box, you have to put it on the shelf with the first one because they are basically one big story.
Yes.
I'd even go far as putting it on a little pedestal on that shelf. I'll toss out Tomb Raider 2. I'd put them on the shelf.
Okay, you can have more than okay. And I'll go last. I'm going to put this on the shelf. I was blown away how good I felt this game was and how good I felt that they combined together to make one game. This is going to be up there, one of the RPGs that I will be recommending to people from now on when I talk to people about, hey, you ever play Golden Sun? You need to play this if you like turn-style RPGs. And I was not expecting that when I came, because I like Golden Sun 1, but it didn't blow me away. But this game combined blew me away. So that's going to be a thing that so it's going on the shelf, and I'm so glad I finally played this series, or these 2 games. So yeah. All right. And if you enjoyed this episode, as I said at the top of the show, please go, if you hadn't listened to, go listen to Golden Sun 1, Episode 4, and Golden Sun Recovered 4, which came out not that long, a couple months ago at this point. So go listen to both of those. And next week, we are going to be covering Shovel Knight. I'm trying to get some, I wanted to finally play Shovel Knight again for the show, because I played it
Shovel
once.
Knight.
It's good. It still holds up.
Just Shovel of Hope or
yeah, just Shovel of Hope. I'm going to save the DLC for other mini episodes in the future.
Shovel of Hope is it's so perfect.
It really is good. I was surprised how much fun it was. And as we said at the top of the show, you can find Dan's blog. You will see a link in the show notes to his blog. And Richard, where can people find you at?
Well, again, you can find me. You can find my getting tongue-tied again. Find me up on my YouTube channel, which is Rich Kale on YouTube. You can find my stuff, writing stuff, up on fanfiction.net, Archive of Our Own, Comic Vine, usually as Rich Skits Kale or Rich Kale or Rich Gen X. And you can also find my stuff under my full name. That's where my fanfiction stuff is. That'll be in the show notes as well. Okay?
All right. I had to step away for a second, so I don't know if you were...
It was a wonderful plug. Okay. I loved it. I am moved.
I'll edit that out too, probably. All right, so definitely go check him out. And we have tons of episodes. We cover games, movies, comics. Go listen to all our wonderful past stuff that we have covered on the show. And you can hear both of these guests on different episodes. They've come back before. And I want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Hash Fury. You can follow her on TikTok. She made our music. And I want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who did all the MCU movies with me. Definitely go check him out. You will see a link to his podcast, A Gamer Looks at 40. And also, if you want to support the show for as little as $1, you can go vote in our Patreon polls. So definitely go do that. We have a poll every month for different episodes that we're going to do. So you get to help change the show. So go check those out.
What's the current poll?
The current poll is what Batman movie we should watch. Because this comes out in 2 days because I'm a little behind. A Batman movie. And right now, Under the Red Hood is winning. So if you want to hear that, go vote for it, please. Because I really want to watch that movie again. been a long time.
I actually seen that one. I like that one.
It's a good film. I haven't seen it in like over 7 years, probably. So I'm excited to go back to it. I've absorbed a lot more Batman since the first time I saw it. So it's been a while. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. Only audio, but we are on YouTube. All right, and that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, all.